We got a ton of information in episode 9, enough for me to make 2 videos on. In this video, I want to talk about exactly what happened when Ruth and Bill traveled through densities in the 5th dimension, and who killed Ruth Davenport.
Hey, I'm G, and this is the G-Spot.
A lot of the information we received in episode 9 came from Bill Hastings. Now, Bill had a hard time describing exactly what happened to him and Ruth when they were visiting Major Garland Briggs. And this is because they traveled through densities in the 5th dimension. Now, what all this means is they landed in a place that didn't necessarily follow our physical laws. The best example we have of this is Cooper from episode 3 when he visits that odd place with the 2 ladies. And the way when he tries to move through the room, time and space seem to be different for him. Bill and Ruth would have experienced the same type of thing, or at least the same type of strangeness in whatever density they found Major Garland Briggs in. So it's not that Bill is holding back. It's not that he's such an emotional wreck that he can't manage to piece a story together. It's that Bill really doesn't know exactly what he saw. But he did give us enough to piece everything, as far as Ruth, together. First, let's give a quick rundown to Bill and Ruth's history traveling through densities. They traveled through densities twice. Once around September 1st, give or take 3 or 4 days. And this is the first time they met the Major. The Major asked them to get coordinates from a top secret military database. They traveled back to our density. Ruth found the coordinates. Bill posted on his blog, letting people know that they found the Major. I have a feeling this is how Doppelganger Cooper found Bill Hastings, from this blog. And then Ruth and Bill got ready to revisit the Major on September 12th. On September 12th, Bill and Ruth visit the Major for the second time with the coordinates he asked for. But this time they run into trouble. Someone comes in. As a matter of fact, at one point, Bill says a lot of people. This is where Bill really has a hard time describing things. And next thing he knows, he's in bed, and Ruth's in her bed, just her head, and Garland Briggs' body is with her. And that's about all we get. But this is enough for us to put things together, specifically who killed Ruth. 1. The coordinates are to the White Lodge. We know that coordinates are things that Cooper wants, so it's not to the Black Lodge. We also know that Major Garland Briggs and the Air Force were studying the White Lodge, and these coordinates were found in a top secret military database that Agent Garland Briggs from the Air Force knew about. All these things point to these coordinates being to the White Lodge. Second, Doppelganger Cooper did not kill Ruth Davenport. This was a possibility in my mind this whole time, until we can confirm that whoever killed Ruth got the coordinates. We know that they got the coordinates because Bill tells Tammy that they gave him the coordinates. So if Cooper had killed Ruth, then he wouldn't still be after these coordinates. Third is that it was not a woodsman who killed Ruth. Now, I know that a lot of things that Bill said would lead us to believe that it was a woodsman. The first thing that he says is that there were so many people there. And this, of course, reminds us of episode 8, the 2 scenes, one when the woodsman saved Doppelganger Cooper, 2 when the woodsmen were at the convenience store, and there were literally swarms of these woodsmen. When Bill says that, it makes us think of woodsmen. And it's possible that woodsmen were there when Ruth was killed. Bill also describes how this person disappeared after killing Ruth. And the way he describes the movement of this person is how we've seen the woodsmen traveling in and out of densities. It's how we've seen the woodsmen come into this world. In episode 8, we see woodsmen come into the desert in this way, where their head is first and then their body appears. In episode 1 or 2, when Hastings is in prison and there's a woodsman in the prison cell, we see him disappear exactly the way Hastings described. He floats up, first his body disappears, his head's still there for a second, and then that finally disappears. But the thing that we have to keep in mind with this is that's not how woodsmen move. It's how anybody vibrates through densities in the 5th dimension. So if eventually we were to watch somebody else travel through densities in the 5th dimension, we would see that they seem to disappear the same way the woodsmen do. So this disappearing trick that the woodsmen do is not specific to the woodsman. It's specific to traveling through densities in the fifth dimension. The woodsman didn't kill Ruth. We've seen a woodsman kill before, and the way he killed was by exploding or crushing, I think exploding, but doesn't matter, people's heads. He didn't kill with slices and cuts. And Ruth's head was decapitated in one clean cut, which is not an easy task to do. So something capable of making severe, clean cuts killed Ruth. And that's not the woodsman. Last, the person that killed Ruth knows about the black and white lodges and is capable of traveling through densities in the fifth dimension. And going back through the episodes, I looked for a person that would know how to travel through densities and know about the black and white lodges. And I did find a single person who fits both of these things. That person is whoever Cooper was talking to in episode 2 in the hotel. This person knew that Cooper visited Major Garland Briggs. Now, the only way he would know of that is if he was able to visit Major Garland Briggs himself. Cooper's shocked when he says, "I know you visited Briggs." So Cooper didn't tell him he visited Briggs. So if Cooper didn't tell him that he visited Briggs, then Briggs must have told this person that he was visited by Cooper. So this person has traveled through densities and has seen Major Garland Briggs before. On top of this, the person that talks to Cooper in that hotel tells him, "I will be with Bob again." So this person also knows about Bob and the black and white lodges. Now we can determine the person on the other end of this phone is who killed Ruth Davenport. Now, the real question comes is, can we identify who that person was? And yes, we can. So I went back and listened to Bill Hastings' description again. And that's when 2 words really stuck out to me. It was beautiful, it was terrible. 2 opposite things at the same moment. What else have we seen that is both really beautiful and really terrible? And that's when I realized the experiment has been both beautiful, as we saw in episode 8. I actually described this as beautiful in my video. We've also seen the experiment be quite terrible, vicious even. Terrible's an understatement of what the experiment is capable of. On top of this, once we go through and run the experiment through our checklist of items, it fits them all. The experiment is certainly capable of decapitating Ruth in this manner, as we saw with the slashes she killed Tracy and Sam with. The experiment is capable of traveling through densities in the fifth dimension. The experiment knows about the black and white lodge, and Bob has been with the experiment. So this also means it was the experiment that was on the other line. We know the experiment wants the coordinates, and we know the coordinates are to the White Lodge. The experiment obviously wants into the White Lodge. Why? We don't know. It could be to destroy the White Lodge, take over the White Lodge, or somehow or another the experiment can steal power from the White Lodge and become even more powerful. Hard to say, but for one reason or another, the experiment wants to get into the White Lodge. We see the experiment come through the glass box on September 13th. Where is it off to? Well, the first thing it has to do is get Bob back. It let Cooper know that it is going to be with Bob again. And it probably needs Bob, or Bob is at least going to be a help to it in doing whatever it wants to do with the White Lodge. It's probably why Cooper is so determined to hold on to Bob, because Cooper is trying to do the same thing the experiment's doing. Once the experiment is with Bob, it is going to head to Twin Peaks. It's going to do this on October 1st and October 2nd because that is when doorway to the White Lodge is going to open. The questions that are left from this experience that Bill and Ruth had in this different density is, where is Ruth's body? And where is Major Garland's head? And what happened to Major Garland? We don't know if Major Garland was killed. And we don't know where Ruth's body and Major Garland's head is. We did see Major Garland's head float by Cooper when he was in an odd density. Does that mean that Major Garland's head survived? Is Major Garland's head on Ruth Davenport's body? That seems really strange, but I can't stop thinking about that. And does somebody have Major Garland Briggs, or did he manage to leave the density and go to a new one. The one piece of information Bill does not give us is whether or not they gave the coordinates to Major Garland before everything got interrupted. So that's a question we're left asking. As I said, episode 9 had a ton of information on it. My next video is going to be on the theme of episode 9, which was time. Everything we learned about time in episode 9, and also how they used the theme to make us, the viewing audience, part of the episode. Because they did, and it was awesome. If you enjoyed the video, don't be afraid to give it a like. If you want to make sure you get all of my Twin Peaks uploads, including my second part on episode 9, go ahead and subscribe. You'll be alerted every time I upload a video. If you know anybody else that loves Twin Peaks, go ahead and share the video. It will give you something to talk about. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.